Definitions of terminology. Cyber. The word cyber relates to computers or computer networks. Attacks to a computer or a data network are called cyber attacks. Cybersecurity refers to actions or measures taken to protect a computer or network against unauthorized access or attacks. Malware. Malware are malicious software and programs intended to damage or disable computers and computer systems. For the international Curtis teams, we will define cultural terms used by the speaker. Wipe it means to erase. Gobbledygook means nonsense, something that is unintelligible. Google searches means an internet search engine popular in North America and Europe. Cloud means using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data rather than a local server or a personal computer. Sweating it out means worrying, being concerned, waiting in anticipation. W-2 forms means U.S. tax forms showing the annual income of a person.
I've been with CohnReznick for almost 20 years now, doing various types of consulting, and cybersecurity is really my passion, and I am honored to be here today to provide everybody with some security awareness and to scare everybody up about the latest trends that's going on today and what we can do as a whole company to defend against it. So the main areas that I'm going to talk about is to discuss the threat landscape, what's really going on in the news right now. A lot of it may be gobbledygook to a lot of people. They've heard terms like ransomware and cryptovirus and WannaCry. And to a lot of people, it really means nothing except, their computers aren't working or the systems are down. So I'll try to explain a little bit for everybody. Then I'm going to go into what your role as an individual for the company is to defend against cybersecurity attacks, because there are things that you can do. And finally, I'm going to give you personal tips that you can take for your own home use that I think will be very helpful. Ransomware is so prevalent that every 10 seconds, either an individual or a company is hit with this virus. That's how prevalent it is.
Ransomware. Ransomware is where a malware program takes over your computer system. The user is locked out until a ransom is paid to the cyber attacker.
So how does a company get attacked? The traditional way that a company would get hacked is from accessing the physical network. They would go inside, somebody would let them in through the door, maybe somebody would hold it open for them, or they would go inside and pretend that they're working for Verizon or UPS, some way to get in there, and then they could start doing other tactics that will go into more detail. Another way that's much more common is social engineering, where they will learn from the internet. They'll start doing Google searches about individuals and start understanding about their personal lives and start plotting attacks that way. Next, there will be about phishing attacks, which everybody is familiar with. We're going to go into a lot of detail about that, but that is one of the most common ways that an individual can get one of these viruses on their computers.
Phishing. Phishing is the fraudulent practice of sending emails pretending to be from reputable, trusted companies or people in order to induce individuals to reveal personal information, such as passwords and credit card numbers.
We'll talk about hacking. Hacking is a technique used to get inside a company's network from the outside without having to physically go there.
Hacking is unauthorized intrusion into a computer or a network. The person engaged in hacking activities is referred to as a hacker. Hackers may break in and alter system or security features to engage in malicious acts or to steal confidential information or data, such as passwords and credit card numbers.
And lastly, insiders is one of the biggest issues that we have. And a lot of time it's done because they don't even know that they're doing it. Either they're rushing to get a job done and bypass security protocols, or they're just unaware that they are violating security for the sake of productivity. So imagine you coming to work today and you find in my documents folder, this is your files. So we recently run across a company, a construction company, that this happened to all their files, and their whole ERP system had this happen to them. And their whole ERP system was in the cloud, so they had no control over it whatsoever. So the cloud service provider, the one that was hosting all their data, said, well, I think we can get your backups working, but we'll let you know in a couple of days. The company had no manual processes to go back to, and for 5 days, the CFO was sweating it out, wanting to know whether they were going to still be in business or not. Luckily, they were able to get it back up and running, and now they put procedures in place to make sure that they do not have a single point of failure again. But this is the kind of things that we deal with, and this is real live. This was a client of ours, and we asked them to do a cybersecurity assessment, and they said, no thanks, we don't see any interest in it, and then they got attacked. And it's usually after the fact, unfortunately. If you get hit with the ransomware virus, these might be some of the screenshots you would see. What happens is this comes up onto your computer, and you can't do anything on it anymore. You can't hit Control-Alt-Delete. When you reboot your computer, this comes right back up. There is nothing you can do except wipe it or pay the money. So we're going to go over and over the same kind of theme. Backing up your systems is really a key for your own personal use. But the company, I have reinforced many times in our assessment, the needs to make sure that there is adequate backups and disaster recovery plans. Because when this does happen, it could really be a catastrophe. Even the FBI says pay it if you have to, because there's really nothing they can do for you either. So ransomware is so popular now that they've come up with ways that they can give you ransomware without sending you an email. So there was something called the WannaCry virus, which many of you might have heard of. That was looking for holes within a company's system, and then they would send the virus that way.
WannaCry. The WannaCry ransomware attack was a May 2017 worldwide worm cyber attack which targeted computers running the Microsoft Windows operating system by encrypting data and demanding Bitcoin payments. Computer worms are self-replicating computer programs that penetrate an operating system with the intent of spreading malicious, damaging code.
They are getting much more sophisticated. They are targeting online backups now. So if you have all your data backed up somewhere, but it's on the internet, they could still go out and find it, even if it's not on the internet, even if it's locally stored on a company network. It can go out and potentially corrupt that data as well. So the idea is to always have something offline, removed and put somewhere safe as well. But ransomware is a service they have now. So anybody could just pay $100 a month and use somebody else's software as if it was a regular piece of software and send ransomware to their victims. It is just crazy what's available out there today. And there are entire websites that are also being infected with the ransomware. Now, why is it so popular? One of the main reasons why is because of the invention of Bitcoin. But it's basically a new form of currency that is not regulated by any government and is completely anonymous. And you don't have to pay the credit card company any percentage when you're making a transaction. So it was not meant for criminals, Bitcoin, despite a lot of people's beliefs.
Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. Bitcoin and similar cryptocurrencies are a form of digital currency in which encryption techniques are used. This form of payment is increasingly used worldwide for web-based transactions.
So these attacks are very inexpensive. A credit card on the internet is like $5, an email address is free, and a cell phone, which you need to do a authorization, is about $20 for one of those pay-per-use phones. So it's very attractive, this form of attack. And even more so is because there's videos like this on YouTube that'll show you exactly how to use their software. This is directly from YouTube. It'll say how much do you want to charge your customers. It'll give you metrics on who's paid and who's not. And the bottom line is, it works. People are paying this. And they don't charge an exorbitant amount of money. They usually do give you your files back. And that's why if they send thousands upon thousands of email addresses, some people will pay that ransom because they really need their data back. Most of the time it's photos, as we know, or videos of their family. So as I was saying before, email is the biggest way that these viruses come in. But a new way for viruses to come in is through fake advertisements. So if you ever go on Facebook or one of those websites where they have a bunch of ads on the side, do everybody a favor, yourself a favor, and don't click on them, okay? There is never going to be anything that you need from those ads. If you want to go to those websites, go to them directly.
Fake ads. Fake ads are online advertisements that look authentic but are actually fraudulent copies of ads from trusted retailers. Users are tricked into a false shopping process designed to download malware or to obtain confidential information.
Other areas that we're going to go more into: social media, USB drives, business applications, and there's a big section of things that we don't know. There's always coming up with new ways for us to be attacked, and they are getting smarter and smarter. The first thing I want to talk about is passwords. My recommendations are as follows. Do not use any words from the dictionary. Make sure that your password is at least 8 characters, if not 12. And I can tell you that nobody's going to memorize these complex passwords. We all agree on that. The whole industry says no one's going to remember these. So what I did was I gave you an example on the bottom of something that's a good password to have. It's something that you can memorize. You don't have to remember if you put the asterisk or the @ symbol. You know, it's just something that's simple, and you put spaces there as well. So the longer the password is, the better it's going to be. Even if you put a dictionary word there, and if it was some onomatopoeia, that would be much harder to crack than an 8-character password. As far as ransomware is concerned, if you do have it on your computer, the best thing to do is call IT. If you have any kind of computer savvy, unplug it off the network, because what happens is it'll infect your computer, and then any drive letters that you're connected to, whether it's your S drive or H drive, whatever drive letters you're connected to, it'll start going after those and encrypting data on those as well. So the sooner you can disconnect it off the network, the better off you are. All right? And most likely, if you do get this, you will have to go to backups. So do not store any sensitive data on your computers. That's the bottom line. Make sure that if you do, it's a copy of it. It's not the original. Now, how do you spot a phishing email that could have potential ransomware in it or some other kind of virus? They're getting smarter and smarter each day. They used to be where they were from other countries and they couldn't spell, the grammar was bad and nobody was checking. Now they hired real professionals to write this. Many of these may seem common to you, where the subject line looks a little weird or the timing looks off. This is an actual email that I got from the CEO of my own company. Okay? So I know my CEO is not going to ask me to do a bank transfer, so right away I know that's false. But they are getting much more sophisticated. They're going after the HR department, accounts payable. They can find out a lot of information on LinkedIn and all those other social media. Like, I've seen people have websites where they even have their administrative assistant on their website. So much information can be gathered just by doing a little bit of research. So a lot of this is pretty basic. We're going to go and discuss when things get a little trickier as well. Here's something that you could do if you think a link is suspicious, is you could put the mouse over it and it'll tell you what the actual link is going to. That's a tactic that can be used. There's plenty of other tools out there that can be used that automatically, when you click on it, it goes through, like it's going through virus checking, and it'll say, oh, that link is bad, and it won't let you go to that link. So there's definitely things that you don't have to do, but this is something that you can do to help the company as well. Now here's a first quiz. What type of files do you think are considered always safe to open? There is a right answer here. It's not none of the above. PDF's like the worst. Text files are the safest. Unfortunately, no one's ever going to send you a text file. There's no graphics in a text file. There's no way you could put any kind of virus in a text file. But all these other ones could be loaded with viruses on it. So unless you know specifically that this person is sending you this particular attachment, do not open it. And if you think it's legitimate, but you're still a little unsure, call the person or email the person, and don't reply to the person. This is another tactic that the hackers use, is that you reply back to the person and say, did you send this to me? Obviously, it's going back to the hacker. And, well, you don't think about it because everybody's moving so fast on their phones and everything like that. You're not paying attention to see what's going on. And you do need to take an extra second. That's one of the main themes here, is to take an extra second when you're working on email and really say, is this something I should double check? Today we're getting wire transfer fraud, W-2 forms. We had a customer, we're an accounting company primarily, and somebody called us up and said, I just sent all my W-2 forms, 1,000 W-2 forms to my CEO who I thought was my CEO, and he never got it. What do I do? Okay, there is no what do I do. Okay, it's done. I'm just going to throw it out there. If you do ever get attacked, what is the one thing that corporate should do? So if you're ever in a situation, whether you're working for another company or something like that, a lawyer is the first person you really need to contact. Before calling the police or anything like that, you have to get your ducks in order and make sure that you know exactly what you're in for. This is an example of a fake website that you can click on from one of those Facebook ads that we were talking about. It gets better. So now there's text phishing. Anybody ever get these? Oh, yeah. Okay, right? Everybody's getting the phone calls. We all know that. Everybody's getting phone calls saying your computer has a problem. This is called smishing. It's phishing and SMS texting combined. Watch out for these. Obviously, don't click on these fake apps. So what happens is somebody will get an email saying, click on this to download an app. Look how close the two applications are. The one on the left is fake, the one on the right is real, okay? They are almost identical for somebody who has no idea what to expect. There is no way to detect this. So the best thing to do if you need to download an application is to always go to the App Store, whether it's Google Play or Apple's App Store. That's what I highly recommend. And even that, with the Android system, unfortunately, hackers are able to fool people into tricking apps to download apps that are not legitimate. So Androids are a lot less safe than Apple right now. So some tips for dealing with your phone. First thing is make sure that encryption is on and that your phone is locked every so often. When you get new phones now, this is done automatically for you. With the older ones, you have to manually do this. Keep your phone set to allow installations only from Apple and Androids, like we talked about. Make sure that you are not using unsecured Wi-Fi networks. Now, this means for airport hotspots as well. So anytime you're at a trade show or anything like that, if you go on the Wi-Fi network, you could be going on some hacker's network who knows that Wi-Fi is available for free, even a hotel, anything like that. So you are taking somewhat of a risk. If you feel like it's safe and you're just watching movies or something like that, and you're doing it from your phone, it's a lot safer. Doing anything from your computer brings on a lot more risk. The best thing to do is to get a MiFi device or use your phone as a hotspot. Those are the safest ways to surf the internet when you're not in the office and not at home. And always update your phone. All right, social network attacks. So this goes into my LinkedIn story. So a lawyer friend of mine told me a story how he always accepts people who want to connect with him. So he's always accepting, like most people. I do it too. And then 6 months later, he gets that person, one of the people that accepted, and says, hey, can you do this for me? I'd like you to, he was a lawyer, so it was a request to do some work for him. He's like, oh, he's in my LinkedIn, so he's safe, so sure. And he clicked on the link, and he was able to get onto his machine and get information on it. So they have time on their sides, these hackers. So unless you really know the person, or you've had some kind of real interaction, more than just texting back and forth, if it's just hi, and he doesn't sound legitimate at all yet, I would hold off. But it's really tricky to tell what's real and what's not. That's the challenge. So just do your best, but just know that this is available for hackers to do. They use these kind of techniques all the time to learn about you. Because on LinkedIn, I can find out all about CurtisCyberSecurityJan222018, all the different partners, so I can say, hey, I know this person, and now it sounds more legitimate. Oh, he knows this partner, so he must be legitimate. But that's not the case anymore. With all this information out there, it's very tricky. So just be aware. The next thing is making phony phone calls and telling them that we need some information. And this is what hackers are doing now. They're asking for their password credentials, they're asking for social security numbers, all different types of information that they can use or sell. That's their main goal, is so that how fast can they sell it to somebody on the black market. And it's very effective. And the more you know about the company, the easier it is to trick somebody to give you that information. So we do this for banks all the time, and luckily they've been trained properly not to give any information out, but they still want us to try every so often and see if we can throw them off balance. Another technique hackers use is called baiting. This is where you drop a USB drive in the parking lot, or in the kitchen, or in the bathroom even, and if somebody picks it up, puts it into their computer and opens up the program that says payroll on it, or vacation pictures, or whatever, now they have a virus. Now they have control of your computer. So if you ever see a USB drive that you don't know where it came from, do not plug it into your computer. This was also how the Stuxnet virus was disseminated to Iran. So they put the Stuxnet virus on these USB drives, and they were able to slow down their centrifuges.
Cryptoviruses. Viruses are self-replicating programs that spread by inserting copies of the same program into other executable code files or documents. Viruses can completely corrupt a computer or network.
So going back to some of the physical security threats that we talked about, where you hold the door open for somebody, somebody looks over your shoulder trying to guess see what your password is. There's dumpster diving, which is still pretty important. People are not shredding their documents properly, they're throwing it away. Allowing vendors into the office with no notice. The techniques that they use are so convincing. I've seen them use where they pretend they're building management, they have all the business logos, stationery and everything like that, and nobody questions it. They get in every time with whatever disguise they use. Everybody is so trusting. So I highly recommend that if they don't announce themselves, then to call the office, wherever they came from, to verify that they're supposed to be there. And try to think of using what's called a clean desk policy, making sure that your passwords are not on your computer, on your desk, making sure you don't have sensitive information on your desk while you leave it for an extended period of time. It's one thing if you go to take a break for a few minutes, but if you're going for a half a day out, do not leave sensitive information on your desk. And lock your workstations. The best thing to do these days is to use, I know it sounds crazy, but to use a cloud storage program to manage your passwords. They're very low cost. There are corporate versions of it where if you have shared passwords for some accounts, that way people can see, more than one person can see it. But this way, it's protected and you don't have to write it down anywhere. And if your computer blows up, you don't lose your passwords. And you don't have to write it down under your keyboard or whatever. But I use a program called LastPass, but there's a lot of other programs out there that are very good. And to show how effective it was is that they got hacked, but they got all their data was encrypted, so the hackers got nothing. So after the hack happened, they said to everybody, you can reset your passwords if you want, but don't worry about any of your passwords being stolen because nothing happened. So they didn't get anything. So I would highly recommend you take a look at that. It's like $1 a month, possibly. It may even be cheaper now for these kind of services. But it stores all your passwords, and you can store it on your phone and on your computer, so it's completely accessible to you from wherever you are. So next topic, shadow IT. So this is a term used when somebody decides that my company isn't giving me what I want, but I'm going to do it anyway. Whether it's a program you buy and you install it on your own computer, whether it's putting a Wi-Fi device onto the network, and don't laugh because this is done all the time. This is a very common occurrence when the company has a certain protocol of doing things and the individuals go rogue and do not follow that. And it becomes a very dangerous situation, even though they do it in the best interests of the company. Because if the IT department doesn't know it exists, they can't protect it. Putting a Wi-Fi hotspot is the best example, where I could just plug in a device onto your network here, and now I've just compromised the entire network. It's as simple as that. So where you think, oh, now I have this functionality, I can walk around the office and I can go wirelessly, but now you've just opened it up to all different types of attacks that you had no idea about. The best thing to do is to somehow work with IT. If you don't like the solution that they came up with, then those are the politics that every company has to deal with, and that's the unfortunate truth. But circumventing it makes the whole company more unsecure.
Definitions of terminology. Phishing. Phishing is the fraudulent practice of sending emails pretending to be from reputable, trusted companies or people in order to induce individuals to reveal personal information, such as passwords and credit card numbers. Spoofing attack. Spoofing attacks involve the creation of fake websites that falsify data by duplicating legitimate sites. They look identical to the real thing, but are designed to get users to provide confidential information.
It looks as legitimate as you can get. And I'll tell you why we sent this. Because you're going to probably say, oh, they need to know so much information about our company. This would rarely ever happen. The point is, your company should never, ever ask you to click here to reset your password. They will always say, go to our intranet, or go here, or do these following steps to reset your password. They're never going to say, click here. And if they do, then you should nail them on it. So these are the action items that I would expect every employee here to pay attention to. First is make sure that you are on alert for scams, fake email addresses, fake phone calls, anything that seems a little bit suspicious. Make sure that you are protecting your confidential data. Now, on your laptops, they're not encrypted. Now, that might change in the future, but right now, if you have something very sensitive on your computer and that laptop is stolen, somebody can have access to very sensitive information, whether it's intellectual property, social security numbers, whatever it is. So make sure that if you are traveling, do not have that kind of information on your laptop. Pay attention to where you go on the internet. A lot of times it's very easy to click on something that's malicious, like we talked about before. Only connect to the internet using known sources, so hotspots, things like that, connect to. Don't use USB drives that you don't know about. Don't update your credentials with a link, like we talked about before. Go directly to the website. So you may get a link saying, click here. Like, it may look exactly like your email server where you have to update your credentials. Go to that email server directly instead of clicking on the link to make sure that you're doing it the right way. Verify that your email request is legitimate before taking action. And what I mean by that is the W-2 forms again, or the wire transfers. Don't attach any unapproved devices to the network. And lastly, think before you click. Now, as far as personal security tips, I would like you to think about using cloud storage for backups. There's a lot of ways that you could do this securely, but there's a lot of companies out there that are making sure that, like Amazon being one of them, Google does it now also, especially for your photos or anything like that. Start looking into that, because the last thing you want is to have ransomware and you lose all your data. Use password managers like we discussed. Try to use different passwords everywhere, and that's why I'm going back to using some kind of program to keep track of this stuff. The reason why I'm saying this is because if you get hacked, let's say you go to some stupid website, like where you purchase movie tickets and you have to make an account, and you use that same password for the corporate network. Now, that website where you get movies gets hacked, and now they know your corporate password. So these passwords are stored in something called the dark web, which is where all the bad guys go to keep information, sell drugs, do all these illegal activities. But they found text files of passwords that had 1 billion records in them. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And with all these, the Uber attack that just happened and Equifax, they have so much information about you already, so that it's very important for you to mix it up and not have the same password everywhere. You can deviate a similar kind of password, but don't have a pattern that's so obvious that, where somebody could easily figure it out. Keep your computers up to date, make sure they have proper antivirus software on, and that goes with your phones as well. Try Googling yourself. It doesn't hurt to just see what people can find out about you. And the less you put out about your personal information on the internet, the better off you are. With Facebook, it's a little controlled, but if you allow a lot of people onto Facebook and you say, I'm going on vacation, now people will know that you're on vacation. It gets to that point. It's very dangerous. And lastly, only download apps from the official stores, like I said before. Thank you.